For 23 years, I bled ink and sweat into the pages of Harrove and Sons Bookbindery. Not just any bookbindery, the Bookbindery. Founded by my great-grandfather in 1912, it survived 2 world wars, the Great Depression, and the digital age by sheer stubbornness and craftsmanship. My father ran it with quiet dignity until his heart gave out 5 years ago, leaving it to me and my younger brother, Daniel. I was the one who stayed. While Daniel jetted off to business school in Chicago, I worked 16-hour days in the dust-choked workshop, learning every knot, every stitch, every whisper of leather and linen thread. I kept the accounts, negotiated with rare paper suppliers in Italy, and hand-bound limited editions for collectors who paid more for a single volume than most people make in a year. When Dad died, we agreed verbally, foolishly, that I would manage operations, and Daniel would handle strategy. At first, it worked. He brought in sleek marketing, a website, even a boutique subscription box. Sales rose. I thought we were finally moving forward together. Then came the knives. It started subtly. Daniel began scheduling executive meetings without me. He would forget to CC me on supplier contracts. He hired a COO, a slick MBA named Vanessa, who called my handbinding methods quaint but inefficient. One day, I walked into my office to find my nameplate gone, replaced with a generic operations manager plaque. I confronted him in the oak-paneled study Dad used to love. "You are sidelining me," I said, voice trembling not from fear, but betrayal. Daniel did not even look up from his laptop. "The market is changing, Claire. Sentimentality does not pay the bills. We are modernizing. You can stay on as a senior artisan if you are willing to adapt." Adapt. As if my life's work was a sweater that needed resizing. The final blow came last Tuesday. A board meeting, yes, we suddenly had a board where Daniel announced a strategic pivot. Harrove and Sons would become Harrove Digital Archives, specializing in digitizing rare texts. The physical bindery? Phased out. My role? Redundant. He offered me a severance package. Generous, he called it. Insulting, I called it. That night, I sat in the silent workshop, running my fingers over the spines of books I had bound with my own hands. Grandfather's ledger sat on the desk, the original 1912 account book, its pages yellowed but legible. And then I remembered. Dad had shown me something once, when I was 16. A clause buried in the original Articles of Incorporation, handwritten in Grandfather's elegant script, in the event of dissolution or radical rebranding of Harrove and Sons Bookbindery, all intellectual property, client lists, and historical archives shall revert solely to the direct descendant who maintains active, hands-on stewardship of the craft. I had forgotten it. But Daniel never knew it existed. I spent the next 48 hours in a feverish blur. I gathered every contract, every client email, every design template. I contacted our oldest clients' university libraries, private collectors, even the Vatican's rare manuscripts department. I reminded them of the clause. I showed them Daniel's plans to erase 112 years of legacy for a soulless tech rebrand. Then I filed an injunction. Yesterday, the judge ruled in my favor. All Harrove intellectual property, client relationships, and the name itself belong to me, not the corporation Daniel tried to reshape, but to the craft. The bindery stays. The legacy stays. I stay. Daniel showed up this morning, red-faced and sputtering about corporate theft. I handed him a single, freshly bound book, deep green leather, gold filigree, his name embossed on the cover. Inside, blank pages. "Start your own story," I told him. "But do not write over mine." The workshop smells of glue and possibility again. And for the first time in years, I am not just keeping the business alive. I am rebinding it with stronger thread. But let me go back. Because the truth is, this did not happen overnight. The rot began long before the board meetings and the COO and the cold, sterile pivot to digitization. It began the day Daniel returned from Chicago with his tailored suits and his PowerPoint decks and his belief that tradition was just another word for inefficiency. I welcomed him with open arms. I cooked his favorite meal, roast beef with Yorkshire pudding, just like Mom used to make. I showed him the new Japanese tissue paper we had sourced, so delicate it felt like spider silk. I walked him through the restoration of a 16th century psalter, its spine cracked, its pages brittle as autumn leaves. He nodded politely, snapped a few photos for Instagram, and said, "This is all very charming, Claire, but how are we monetizing it?" Monetizing it. As if the soul of a thing could be reduced to a line item on a spreadsheet. At first, I tried to meet him halfway. I let him redesign the logo, though I winced every time I saw the old crest replaced by something sleek and minimalist. I agreed to launch an online store, though I insisted every product description include the name of the artisan who made it. I even sat through his endless strategy sessions, where he and Vanessa spoke in jargon so dense it felt like a foreign language. Leverage points, vertical integration, disruptive innovation. I kept quiet when he moved my desk from the corner office overlooking the courtyard the office Dad had occupied for 40 years to a cramped room near the loading dock. I said nothing when he began referring to me in emails as Claire from production, as though I were a cog in a machine rather than the woman who had kept this business breathing through lean years and leaner winters. But the breaking point came last spring. We had just completed a commission for the Morgan Library, 3 hand-bound folios of Emily Dickinson's poems, each cover inlaid with pressed violets from her Amherst garden. It took me 6 weeks to finish them. 6 weeks of pre-dawn starts, of aching wrists, of holding my breath as I applied the final layer of beeswax polish. The morning they were shipped, Daniel called me into his office. He did not compliment the work. He did not thank me. Instead, he slid a contract across the desk. "We are restructuring," he said. "As of next month, you will no longer be listed as co-owner. You will be reclassified as a contractor. Your salary will be adjusted accordingly." I stared at him. "You cannot be serious." "It is not personal, Claire. It is about scalability. Investors want clear hierarchies. Clean ownership structures." I laughed then, a sharp, broken sound. "You are erasing me. After everything I have done. After everything Dad trusted me to protect." He looked uncomfortable for the first time. "You are being dramatic. You can still work here. You will still be valued." Valued. As if my worth could be measured in hourly rates and performance reviews. That night, I went through every box in the attic of the old house next door, the house where Grandfather had lived, where Dad had raised us. I found the original deed to the property, the first ledger, even Dad's handwritten notes from his early days running the shop. And there, tucked between the pages of a 1923 edition of the Art of Bookbinding, was the clause. I read it 3 times, tears blurring the ink. It was not just a legal safeguard. It was a promise. A covenant between generations of Hargroves who understood that some things cannot be digitized, cannot be outsourced, cannot be optimized away. I spent the next month preparing. Quietly. Methodically. I copied every client list. I secured letters of support from institutions that had worked with us for decades. I hired a lawyer who specialized in heritage businesses and intellectual property. And I waited. When Daniel announced the rebrand at the board meeting, I did not argue. I did not cry. I simply stood, gathered my things, and left. 2 days later, the injunction was filed. The hearing was brief. Daniel's lawyers argued that the clause was obsolete, unenforceable, irrelevant in the modern corporate landscape. My lawyer presented the original documents, authenticated by a historian from the city archives. She showed emails where Daniel referred to the bindery as a legacy cost center. She played a voicemail where he told Vanessa, "Once Claire is out, we can really streamline this operation." The judge did not hesitate. Now, the bindery hums with life again. The apprentices I trained are back. The scent of oak, gall, ink, and cedar wood fills the air. And every morning, I open grandfather's ledger and write a new entry, not in ink, but in hope. As for Daniel, he tried to start his own venture. Harrove Digital folded within 6 months. No one trusted a man who would discard his own family's legacy for a trend. Last I heard, he was working for a startup in Austin, selling NFTs of famous book covers. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder if he understands what he lost. Not the business. Not the money. But the weight of a name carried with honor. The quiet pride of making something that lasts longer than a quarterly report. I run my fingers over the spine of a newly bound volume, a first edition of Leaves of Grass, restored for a poet. In Portland. The leather is supple, the stitching precise, the gold leaf catching the lamplight like fire. This, I whisper to the empty workshop, is how you build something that outlives you. And this, I think with a quiet smile, is how you make sure no one ever forgets who built it first.